Hi everyone, my name is Loretta Robertson and I'm an associate scientist at the Marine Biological Laboratory in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, USA. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our tropical seaweed farming project that's going on in the Caribbean currently. So the main goal of our work is to optimize production of desirable macroalgal bioproducts and biofuel at a significantly lower cost than current technologies.
In the United States, we probably import about 98% of all our seaweeds for food, feeds, phycocolloids, and we are not doing any importation of biomass for biofuels. It is hoped that a successful tropical seaweed project will bring in some new species of seaweeds that are found in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Caribbean Sea, especially around Puerto Rico. We can bring this biomass into cultivation, be able to successfully produce new sources of biomass that do not need fresh water, do not need nutrients, and we would have a high quality food product, a feed product, a product for the phycocolloid industry, as well as producing enough biomass for biofuel production.
We focused on the Caribbean and the red alga Eucheuma isoforme, or Euchematopsis isoformis, as it is native to U.S. waters and has a very high carrageenan content, and thus a ready market. We have 5 principal objectives that address the economic viability of macroalgae as feedstock for biofuels in particular. So first, we need to develop techniques for large-scale, year-round mechanized cultivation and harvesting of climate-resistant macroalgae. Second, we need to characterize the nutrient and hydrodynamic loads at the farm scale. Third, we must determine chemical and growth characteristics of the macroalgal biomass and see if it varies seasonally, etc. Fourthly, we must identify the social and environmental impacts of macroalgae farms. And lastly, we need to do economic modeling and life cycle assessment of the biomass production, incorporating not only technical or technological, but the social and environmental factors. To do this, we have assembled a really crack team of highly qualified people with many years of experience in seaweed cultivation, most notably cultivation of eucheumatoid red algae, as well as experts in the design of ocean farm systems, in nutrient dynamics in open ocean systems, environmental impact assessment and stakeholder engagement, and economic modeling of aquaculture systems. We believe that our work will develop new technologies that will greatly reduce the cost of seeding and harvesting of red algae, and will provide a suite of critical data on the performance of farm systems in offshore areas and the productivity potential in currently underutilized areas of the U.S. exclusive economic zone. We really couldn't do this work without our fabulous team. So I'll give you just a brief overview of who they are and the 15 different institutions and companies that comprise it, but I'll let them tell you in their own words about the work that they're doing for us.
To optimize production of desirable macroalgae, our team has designed a farm system that is both compatible with the mechanized farming and harvesting of tropical macroalgal species, and yet robust enough to withstand the current waves and storm events in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. We currently have 3 research farms growing seaweed near La Peguera, Puerto Rico, Bradenton, Florida, and La Plasencia, Belize.
Successful offshore macroalgae production depends on several environmental factors. For example, to conduct risk analysis and system design under extreme sea state conditions, detailed and accurate wave climate and hydrodynamic information is needed. PNNL is developing a high-resolution, 3-dimensional couple storm surge and wave model at the proposed project site in Puerto Rico and the Gulf of Mexico. The model results from the storm surge and wave simulations will be used to support the system hydrodynamic load modeling and the fine-scale large eddy simulations at the project site.
Our modeling tool is called MacMods for Macroalgae Modeling System. It's being used, for example, to help determine if different plant-out dates or harvest schedules could increase annual yield. We are really excited to be working with the Tropical Seaweed Farm project, as the exchange of information between predictive models and the actual ocean observations is one that we hope will benefit everyone on the project. As Tropical Seaweed Farm gets their pilot farms in the water, we'll be helping to collect observations of water properties, currents, and seaweed productivity that we can use to check that our model is getting things right.
So what we're trying to do is grow these really large-scale offshore seaweed farms. And we just don't know exactly how large they can get before they start to interfere with the growth of the seaweed on the farm. And so what the modeling that Kristen and the team at UC Irvine and UCLA are doing for us is really allowing us to better understand how the farms impact the environment in which they're growing in, as well as how best to design the deployment of the farm, and whether it's one gigantic farm or split up into smaller individual farms that provide more nutrient access to the seaweed. It's a very powerful tool that we don't have at this time.
Wild populations of Euchema iciforme are usually found in shallow waters in proximity to corals. Euchema iciforme is closely related to several other euchematoid species that are widely cultivated in East Africa and Asia for carrageenan production. A small amount of Euchema iciforme is currently cultivated in Belize for commercial purposes, and there's a lot of room to increase this production. However, to do so, we need to better understand the chemical and growth characteristics of the species. Here, our team will tell you a little bit more about their work.
The tools that we primarily use include a lot of basic understanding of the biology and physiology of seaweeds in combination with culturing methods. And we try different things like altering light, temperature, nutrient levels to kind of get the best growth and the best maintenance that we can of our Euchema cultures.
Good culturing methods for Euchema. So to do that, I look at different growing techniques, such as growing the Euchema on ropes, in tube netting, or in flasks.
Here we are just trying to help figure out the most successful way to culture the seaweed for part of this tropical seaweed project, so we can meet the project's expectations.
The research that these and other team members are conducting is critical to the expansion of Euchema cultivation in the tropical US and the Gulf of Mexico. Very little data exists to indicate how the chemical characteristics of Euchema iciforme vary through its developmental stage or in response to certain environmental conditions. These fluctuations, of course, will influence the quality and value of algal bioproducts and biofuels. We plan to combine insight from our field research with consultation from local stakeholders to develop a best management practices for seaweed aquaculture in the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean Sea. Our intention is that these ecological BMPs will support prospective seaweed farmers, resource managers, and buyers through ecologically and socially responsible decision-making around seaweed aquaculture. Fostering sustainable expansion of Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico macroalgal cultivation will encourage production in these regions to expand beyond the existing small-scale farms producing seaweed for artisanal beverage and cosmeceutical markets. Establishing larger-scale farms in a responsible manner will enable production of algal biomass for additional local and global markets and allow resource managers to consider seaweed farming as an extractive component of an integrated water quality management strategy.
So my work consists at the crossroads between biology and engineering. So I'm working with the engineers to design a system that will allow us to grow this seaweed and allow people to work it with ease, and also to develop mechanization so we can increase the amount of labor involved in farming these systems. And I'm also working with a biologist to figure out how can we grow the most seaweed on these systems, and figuring out how these systems actually will influence the surrounding environment. So we're employing a bunch of different techniques to answer these questions, from modeling of the infrastructure to ecosystem assessments. We install current meters, tension meters on the farm to measure how much tension these farms are under in different wave environments or wind environments, and how they survive and how we can operate these systems in different environments. And then also we're doing periodic biological sampling across these structures to figure out how the seaweed is growing. And do we have areas where it's growing better? Do we have areas where it's growing worse? Is the chemical composition of the seaweed different across these structures?
I recently helped establish a consortium we poetically call the Ancient Mariner. This moniker and anagram stands for a network of interests in Alaska, Northeastern, Caribbean, innovative energy producing novel technology, in connection with the Mariner program, funded by the Department of Energy. Yeah, I know it's a mouthful, but please go to our website to learn more, www.ancient-mariner.org. My role with the Tropical Seaweed Project is to help with permitting and social licensing issues, and to help transfer what we're learning from the more mature kelp farming industry in northern latitudes and apply them to the early stages of seaweed farming in Puerto Rico. We are using similar farming structures, so there are lots of synergies. I'd say my main contribution to the Tropical Seaweed Project and the Ancient Mariner Consortium is that I help build teams and networks of mutual learning and support. I do my best to make resources available so our team members can do their best to achieve project objectives, like providing new livelihoods that are good for the planet and helping to address climate change.
This first seaweed farm in Puerto Rico is a great step for energy independence after surviving the Hurricane Maria. I think we are in a dire need to move towards more renewable energy sources.
In addition, these types of farms that can be operated at smaller community scales, it is a way to revitalize the economy of Puerto Rico.
We are testing a pilot scale farm system that's on the scale of 33 meters by 100 meters. And this will allow us to do testing around the farm site that will help to validate the hydrodynamic models that are being developed. But the Mariner program itself has the goal of a system that is 1,000 hectares. And how we approached that was building on the pilot scale, but going to 50 meters by 325 meters. And these systems can then be tied together in such a way that they form an array of, say, 5 by 4 of these individual modules. And then of these arrays, we would have multiple arrays at a particular site, and the hydrodynamic models will help us best decide the configuration of these arrays that will enhance productivity.
The goal of that work is to predict at what price we will be able to farm seaweed in the future at very large scales if we pursue the technology that's being developed by these ARPA-E projects, and in particular to see whether we'll be able to produce seaweed feedstocks at a price that's competitive with that of land-based feedstocks for biofuel production. And to do that, we have to look at the technology that exists today for seaweed farming and see how that will likely evolve with the new technology that we're developing as part of these projects, and then how that will scale. to very large farms in the ocean and model the costs, which we anticipate will decrease as the farms get larger, and that should help us reach the targets that we're after. And I think the overall goal is laudable of trying to produce fuel from the sea in a way that's ecologically sensible and economically sustainable. And in the process, we're also, I think, learning more about the ocean and how we can use it in a way that benefits people and keeps the oceans ecologically sound.
That's our project. Let me just end by giving thanks to our funding agency, the U.S. Department of Energy ARPA-E Mariner Program, and that's the Macroalgae Research Inspiring Novel Energy Resources, as well as the Marine Biological Laboratory, and all our partners. And I hope you enjoyed our presentation, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you for your attention.